I gambled for 12 years. During that time, I lost more than $180,000, nearly destroyed my marriage, and became a stranger to my own son. The strangest part is that the moment I finally changed wasn't after losing thousands of dollars. It happened at my son's soccer game when I looked up from a betting app and realized I had missed the only goal he had ever scored. Afterward, he looked at my phone and said, "You've been missing things my whole life." He was 14, and he was right. I'm 45 now. My name is Daniel, and I work as a maintenance supervisor for a small manufacturing company in Pennsylvania. My wife, Emily, and I have been together for 19 years. We have one son, Noah, who is 17. Or at least, we are together now. For a while, I didn't think we would be again. When my gambling started, I was 32. Emily and I had been married for 6 years, and Noah was 2. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. I worked as an electrician for a commercial contractor. Emily worked part-time in a dental office and stayed home with Noah the rest of the week. We owned a small 3-bedroom house. We had one used SUV, one old pickup truck, and around $12,000 in savings. We argued about normal things. Whose turn it was to buy groceries, why I left my work boots near the door, whether Noah should be allowed to sleep in our bed after a nightmare. I didn't drink much. I didn't use drugs. I had never been arrested, and I paid my bills on time. I thought addiction happened to people who were obviously out of control. I didn't understand that you could go to work every morning, kiss your wife goodbye, coach your son's little league team, and still spend every free second thinking about the next bet. For years, Emily described me as dependable. If the car broke, I fixed it. If something leaked, I handled it. If a relative needed help moving, I showed up. That identity became important to me. I was the person who solved problems. When gambling became the biggest problem in my life, I treated it the same way. I believed I could solve gambling by gambling better. It took me 12 years to understand how insane that was. The first bet I ever placed was on a football game. A few guys from work had been using an online sportsbook. This was before betting apps were as common as they are now, so it still felt slightly secretive. One of them, Mike, always seemed to have extra cash. He would buy lunch for everyone on Monday and say he had won a parlay over the weekend. He talked about betting like it was a skill. He knew injury reports, weather conditions, point spreads, and player statistics. I already watched football, so I started thinking I knew enough to do it too. Mike helped me create an account. I deposited $100. My first bet was $25 on the Steelers. They lost. I placed another bet on the Sunday night game and won $60. I remember staring at the balance and thinking how easy it was. I hadn't done any physical work. I hadn't spent 10 hours pulling wire through a freezing building. I had pressed a few buttons and made money while sitting on my couch. Over the next month, I won around $900. That was enough to make me believe I had a system. I bought Emily a bracelet for our anniversary and told her I had received a little extra money from work. She loved it. That lie connected gambling with something good. I hadn't wasted our money. I had used it to surprise my wife. At least that was how I justified it. Then I won $4,600 on a college football parlay. That was the moment gambling stopped being entertainment. I paid off a credit card and put some money into savings. I also kept $1,000 in the betting account. I told myself it was my starting fund. I began reading betting forums every morning. I listened to sports podcasts while driving to work. I followed people online who posted guaranteed picks. None of their picks were guaranteed, but every win made me trust them more, and every loss made me believe the next one would be better. At first, Emily knew I bet occasionally. She didn't like it, but she didn't think it was serious. "How much do you usually put on a game?" she asked once. $20 or $30, I said. By then, I was regularly betting $200. I told myself the amount didn't matter because I was still ahead overall. I stopped tracking my total losses. I only remembered the big wins. That is one of the tricks gambling plays on your memory. You remember the night you won $4,600. You forget the 30 nights you lost $200 trying to feel that way again. Within a year, the original winnings were gone. Then the rest of our savings started disappearing. I didn't take it all at once. I transferred $300 and planned to replace it after payday. Then $500. Then $1,000. Whenever I won, I put some money back. That allowed me to tell myself I wasn't stealing from my family. I was borrowing. By the time Noah turned 4, we had less than $2,000 left in savings. Emily thought we still had almost $10,000. I had changed the password to our online banking and told her the bank had introduced new security rules. She trusted me because I had always handled the bills. That trust made everything easier. And every time she trusted me, I hated myself a little more. Then I placed another bet. Over the next several years, gambling became part of every area of my life. I bet before work. I bet during lunch. I bet while sitting in the truck outside our house because I didn't want Emily to see how often I checked my phone. When sports weren't available, I played online blackjack and roulette. I didn't even enjoy casino games. I played them because they were always there. There was no need to wait for Saturday or for a game to start. I could lose money at 2 a.m. while my wife slept beside me. I opened my first secret credit card when Noah was 5. The limit was $5,000. I used it for gambling deposits and told myself I would pay it off with my tax refund. By the time the refund arrived, the card was maxed out. I used the refund to make minimum payments and kept gambling. Then came another card, a personal loan. Money borrowed from my brother. Money taken from our emergency fund. I sold my motorcycle and told Emily I wanted to be more responsible now that we had a child. She hugged me and said she was proud of me. I gambled away most of the money within 3 weeks. There were periods when I stopped. That is another reason it lasted so long. If I had gambled every day for 12 straight years, maybe the problem would have been obvious sooner. Instead, I would quit for a month, sometimes 2. Once, I stopped for almost 6 months. During those periods, I became the husband Emily remembered. I helped around the house. I spent time with Noah. I slept normally. Then something would happen. A stressful week at work. An argument with Emily. A football game everyone was talking about. I would place one small bet and tell myself the break had proved I was in control. Within days, I would be betting hundreds again. Every relapse started with confidence. It never started with panic. When Noah was 7, I missed his school play because I was sitting in a casino 40 minutes away. I had told Emily I was working overtime. I lost $3,200 that night. When I came home, Noah was asleep. His paper costume was hanging over the back of a chair. Emily had recorded the play on her phone. I watched 30 seconds and said I was tired. When he asked the next morning why I hadn't come, I told him I had been fixing an electrical problem at work. He said, "It's okay, Dad." I used that sentence as permission to forgive myself. When he was 9, we planned a family trip to the beach. 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave, I lost the money we had saved for the hotel. I told Emily the contractor I worked for had delayed my paycheck. We canceled the trip. Noah cried. I blamed my employer in front of him. When he was 11, my mother became seriously ill. She lived in another state, about 4 hours away. Emily kept telling me to visit more often. I always had a reason not to go. Work was busy. The truck needed repairs. Gas was expensive. The truth was that weekends were when I gambled the most. My mother died in November. The last time she called me, I let it go to voicemail because I had money on a basketball game. I never deleted that voicemail. For years, I couldn't listen to it. I also couldn't delete it. By then, Emily knew something was wrong financially. She didn't know the full amount, but she knew we were always short of money despite both of us working. She found one of the credit card statements in my truck. The balance was almost $9,000. She confronted me in the kitchen after Noah went to bed. I admitted I had a gambling problem. Not because I was ready to change, because I had been caught. I cried. I told her everything I thought she needed to hear. I said I hated what I had become. I said I would never place another bet. I gave her my cards and deleted the apps in front of her. For 3 months, I didn't gamble. Then I created an account on a different website. The cycle continued for years. Confession, promises, a short period without gambling, another relapse, another lie. Emily became less angry each time. That scared me more than shouting would have. She stopped asking where money had gone because she already knew. She moved her paycheck into a separate account. She took over the mortgage and household bills. I told myself this was good because I could no longer hurt the family financially. But I found other money: payday loans, cash advances, loans from coworkers. I sold tools from the garage and said I had lent them to someone. I sold my wedding ring and replaced it with a cheap copy. Emily didn't notice for almost a year. By my 42nd birthday, I estimated that I had lost more than $180,000. That number included winnings I gambled back, loans, interest, and money taken from our household. But the money was no longer the worst part. The worst part was that Noah had stopped expecting me to show up. If he had a school event, he told Emily. If he needed help, he called his grandfather. When I asked him how his day was, he gave me one-word answers. I blamed teenage moodiness. The truth was much simpler. He didn't trust me. When Noah was 14, Emily moved out. She rented an apartment across town and took him with her. She didn't make a dramatic speech. She put 2 suitcases near the door and said, "I can't keep raising him inside your addiction. I promise to get help." She said, "You always get help when I'm leaving." Then she left. For the first month, I gambled more than ever. The house was quiet. There was no one to lie to, no one checking when I came home, and no reason to pretend I was okay. I took out another high-interest loan and lost most of it in a week. Then Emily called and said Noah had a soccer game on Saturday. He said, "You can come if you want," she told me. I arrived before the game started. I sat away from Emily because she didn't want to talk to me. I had promised myself I would keep my phone in my pocket. But there were several games happening that afternoon, and I had placed bets on 2 of them. I checked the scores once, then again. Then I started watching a live bet. The parents around me suddenly stood up and cheered. I looked at the field. Noah's teammates were surrounding him. He had scored. It was the first goal he had ever scored in a competitive match. I had missed it because I was looking at the score of a game happening hundreds of miles away. Afterward, I walked over and told him congratulations. He asked, "Did you see it?" I hesitated for half a second. That was enough. He looked down at the phone in my hand. I said I had been answering a work message. He stared at me and said, "You've been missing things my whole life." Then he walked away. I went home and sat in the dark for hours. I had lost thousands of dollars before. I had seen Emily cry. I had listened to my mother's voicemail after her funeral. But that sentence was the first thing that made me understand there might not be another chance. I called a gambling helpline the next morning. Not Emily, not my brother, a professional service. For the first time, I wasn't asking someone I had hurt to save me. I entered an outpatient treatment program and started attending recovery meetings. At first, I hated them. I hated introducing myself as a gambling addict. I hated hearing other people tell stories that sounded like mine. Most of all, I hated the idea that I could never gamble normally again. Part of me still wanted someone to teach me how to control it. No one did. My counselor helped me create barriers. I permanently excluded myself from casinos and betting platforms. I gave my brother control of my finances. My wages went into an account I couldn't access freely. I changed my phone number, blocked gambling websites, and stopped watching sports alone. I sold the house because I could no longer afford the mortgage and the debts. After the sale, there was almost nothing left. I moved into a small apartment above a laundromat. Emily did not move back. She didn't even promise she would. She said recovery had to be something I did whether or not our marriage survived. For the first time, I understood why. I stayed away from gambling for 11 months. During that time, Noah slowly started speaking to me again. At first, our visits were awkward. We would eat lunch, and he would spend most of the time looking at his phone. I didn't lecture him about it. I knew I had no right. Eventually, he started telling me about school and soccer. He let me drive him to practice a few times. Emily agreed to attend counseling with me, but she was careful. She didn't say she trusted me. She said she was watching what I did. 11 months after my last bet, I traveled for work with 2 coworkers. We stopped at a hotel that had a casino attached. I had booked a different hotel, but one of the men changed the reservation because it was cheaper. I should have called my sponsor immediately. I didn't. After dinner, my coworkers went to the casino. I told them I was tired. I went to my room and sat on the bed. For almost an hour, I argued with myself. I had been clean for nearly a year. My debts were being paid. Emily was speaking to me again. Noah had invited me to his next game. I knew exactly what I could lose. Then another thought appeared. Maybe 12 years of gambling had taught me enough to finally be careful. I went downstairs. I told myself I would spend $20. I put the money into a slot machine. Within 10 minutes, I had lost it. I should have left. Instead, I withdrew $100. Then another $100. Then I moved to blackjack. A few hours later, I was up almost $8,000. I had expected the relapse to feel disgusting. It didn't. It felt incredible. All the old thoughts returned at once. Maybe recovery had made me more disciplined. Maybe I could use the money to pay down my debts. Maybe this wasn't a relapse if I walked away ahead. I went back to my room with the cash. I laid it across the bed. For 12 years, every big win had ended the same way. I would tell myself to stop. Then I would risk the money again. I sat there until sunrise, looking at the cash and thinking about going back downstairs. The casino was still open. It would always be open. At 6 in the morning, I called my sponsor. When he answered, I said, "I gambled." There was a long pause. Then he asked, "Are you still there?" I said yes. He told me to leave the money in the hotel safe, take a shower, and meet him on a video call. I did. Later that day, I called Emily. That was harder than calling my sponsor. She answered and immediately knew something was wrong. I told her I had relapsed. I told her how much I had won. She went quiet. Then she asked, "Why are you telling me?" The old version of me would have hidden it. I could have used part of the money to pay debts and pretended it came from overtime. No one would have known, I said, because hiding it is how one mistake always became another year. Emily cried, not because she was proud, because she thought everything was beginning again. I told her I understood if she never wanted to see me again. I said I was going back to treatment and restarting my sobriety date. When I returned home, I gave the money to my brother. After taxes, it went toward restitution and high-interest debt. I did not use it to buy anything for myself. I did not call it a good thing. Winning made the relapse more dangerous, not less. For weeks afterward, I wanted to go back. I kept thinking about how easily $8,000 could become $20,000. Then I remembered that $8,000 had once turned into 12 lost years. I started again from day one. That was 3 years and 4 months ago. I haven't placed a bet since. I still attend meetings twice a week. My brother still helps manage my finances, although I have more access than I used to. Gambling software remains blocked on my phone and computer. I don't carry credit cards. I don't go into casinos. I don't tell myself I'm cured. Emily and I are living together again. It didn't happen immediately. For more than a year, we continued living separately. We went to counseling, had dinner once a week, and talked about things we had avoided for years. She didn't forgive me because I stayed clean for a few months. She watched me tell the truth when lying would have been easier. Eventually, we rented a small place together. Not the house we lost. Not a fresh start where the past disappeared. Just a 2-bedroom rental with a leaking kitchen faucet and neighbors who argue too loudly. It is the safest home I have ever lived in. Noah is 17 now. Our relationship is better, but it isn't perfect. He remembers the missed games, the canceled vacations, and the promises I broke. Sometimes he still checks my face when he sees me using my phone during a game. I understand why. Last month, he played in his final high school soccer match. I left my phone at home, not in the car, not turned off in my pocket. At home, he didn't score that day, but I saw every minute. After the game, he walked over and asked if I had recorded part of it. I laughed and told him I didn't have my phone. He smiled and said, "Good." That one word meant more to me than any jackpot ever did. I still owe money. I still have days when shame hits me without warning. I still think about my mother's voicemail and all the time I gave away. Recovery did not return the 12 years I lost. It gave me the chance to stop losing more. I used to think happiness would feel like a huge win. It doesn't. It feels like an ordinary Saturday morning. Emily is making coffee. Noah is complaining that there's nothing to eat, even though the refrigerator is full. My phone is sitting in another room. Nobody is shouting. Nobody is asking where the money went. After 12 years of chasing excitement, ordinary is the best thing I have ever had.